Okay guys, welcome back to our notes. Today we are going to be shifting gears from our first section in 1.1 with positive numbers on a number line and how to draw those, and now we're going to be looking at how to use and write negative numbers on our number line and negative numbers in real world situations. Okay, so as you're watching this video, you should have the blank copy of notes on your iPad or printed out to follow along with and write down as I'm going through each of these problems. Feel free to pause or rewind the video at any point when you need to help yourself out, and we're going to get started here. Okay, our first objective that we are going to learn about is how to use negative numbers to represent real world quantities, and that we're also going to look at representing, comparing, and ordering positive and negative numbers on our number line. So two of those things that I mentioned in the beginning. Your vocabulary is listed there for you. Remember, we have that Quizlet created with all of our vocab words that you can continue to practice throughout this whole unit. And you have a document with all of our vocab words and their definitions, as well as pictures to go along with it. So use that at any point in reference to what our vocab words are. Okay, so let's look at our first objective here, being able to recognize the use of positive and negative numbers in real world situations. So in number one, when we think about 36 degrees Fahrenheit below zero, if it's below zero or less than zero, this is going to be a negative situation. So below, I'm going to write negative. We're just identifying whether it's negative or positive. Number two, on the right side, a debit of $10,540. That means that I charged my card, I went to the store and I bought something for $10,540. So in my bank account, that's money being taken out, or a negative situation. This is a negative situation. Number three, 2,035 feet below sea level. Below sea level helps me to know that this is less than zero. Sea level would be zero. So if it's below zero, that means that this is going to be negative. Okay, we've had all negatives here so far. Let's look at the last one, number four, a gain of 45 yards. In football, when a team gains yards, gain is positive, so a gain of 45 yards is going to be positive. Okay, so just for this first section, we're looking at, can you tell me, is this a positive situation or is this a negative situation? And we'll see more as we look now at this next step, what difference that makes in real life. So, as we look here, we're going to use this table showing 4 locations compared to sea level. Remember, sea level is when it's at 0, and these 4 locations where their distance is above or below sea level. So if I look at number 5, New Orleans is 8 feet. We have to decide, is it above or below sea level? If I zoom in to New Orleans here, there's a negative sign. So that means that I'm going to be 8 feet below sea level. Mount Davidson, right here, is a positive 928 feet. If it's positive, that means that it is above sea level. Whoops, we have to put our number in there. We already knew that. Their directions told us. So it's 928 feet above sea level. Number 7, I want to find the deepest location of the 4. So when I think about the deepest, that would be the most negative. What location is the most negative here? That would be Death Valley. Death Valley is the most negative, or the farthest down. The highest location among the 4 locations, or the most positive, would be Pilot Mountain. Pilot Mountain is the most positive, or the highest town, highest location of our 4. And that visual there kind of helps us out below, that we can see Pilot Mountain is here at our highest point. Okay? Our last question, the location nearest sea level. The location that's nearest sea level would also be thought of the location that's closest to 0. So the number that is closest to 0, I have -8, -282, +928, and 2,421. If I picture my vertical number line, or use this picture here off to the side to help us out, what's the closest here? I can see that my location that's closest to 0 is New Orleans. That's the closest to sea level. Okay. So this is being able to look at a chart, understand our locations and how they relate to above sea level, below sea level, and location. These are real life examples of positive and negative numbers that we see. Okay, we're going to keep moving. Our second objective is to look at representing negative numbers on a number line. So, like I mentioned before, when we are creating our number lines in the previous section, we know that our number lines should have arrows at the end of them because our numbers continue in both directions. They go to the positive and they go to the negative. So, with our negative numbers, our starting point is here at 0, and then our numbers continue to the left, starting at -1, -2, on and on and on. The more that I move to the left, my numbers are decreasing, or they're getting smaller. The more I go to the left on a horizontal number line, my numbers are decreasing. Which then, if I'm thinking about a vertical number line, the more I go down, my numbers decrease. Okay? So when I'm looking at numbers, let's look in that blue box here, this blue kind of spark thing. Opposites. Opposites is one of our other vocab words. Opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0, but they have different signs. So our example of 2, +2 and -2, I have +2 there, -2 here, I can see that my distance 1, 2, 1, 2, my distance is the same. Even though they're opposites, they don't have the same sign, one is positive and one is negative, they still have the same distance from 0. So they are opposites. One big thing I want us all to pay attention to right here is that 0 is neither positive nor negative. It is its own opposite. 0 means that there's nothing there. So we don't have a positive 0 and a negative 0. 0 is just 0. And we'll see that how that comes into play as we start to look at our next example here. So if I scroll and look at number 1, my job is to draw a horizontal number line to represent numbers from 0 to 6 and their opposites. Okay, so I have a horizontal number line. If I'm representing the numbers from 0 to 6 and their opposites, that means I'm going to have positive and negative numbers on my number line. My middle point's going to be 0, and I want to show all of my positive numbers to 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the opposites of all of those numbers. So on the left side, I have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and negative 6. Represent tells me that I'm going to plot points, so I want to represent the numbers from 0 to 6 and their opposites. So I'm going to start here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to skip 0 because 0 is its own opposite and have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and negative 6. And that is what my number line will look like. It's representing 0 to 6 and their opposites. Okay, looking at number 2. So I want to now draw a vertical number line to represent the following set of numbers: negative 26, negative 29, negative 30, negative 32, and negative 34. Okay, so my number line needs to include a range for all of these numbers to fit on it. So my first task is going to be to identify what's my smallest value and what's my largest value in this set. Well, I see I have a negative 34. And then on the opposite end would be negative 26. We have to kind of shift our thinking a little bit. Remember, on the top goes our largest value. So between negative 26 and negative 24, negative 26 is actually our largest number, and negative 34 is our smallest value. So that's opposite of what we think in the positives. Because as we get more negative, or we go farther down, our numbers decrease. They get more negative. Okay, it doesn't tell me what my interval is. It doesn't give me any kind of specific interval for number 2. So I'm going to count by ones and fill in my values in between. So I have negative 27, 28, 29, okay, I have all of my negative values in between there. Now I'm going to plot my points of the numbers that they give me. So negative 26 is plotted, negative 29 is plotted, negative 30, negative 32, and negative 34. So now all of my numbers have been plotted on my number line. All right, let's move on down here. Our job is just to write the opposite of each number. So with number 3, I'm starting with negative 14. My opposite is the same distance from 0, but it's either positive or negative, opposite of what the original number is. So for this one, I would have positive 14. For number 4, I'd have negative 27. And for number 5, I'd have positive 42. Pretty much just taking either the positive or negative sign off of the number that they're giving us. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 6. Now we're drawing inequalities showing which number is greater than the other. Okay, so I'm comparing negative 15 to negative 6. Negative 15 on a number line is more negative or farther to the left. So that means it is smaller than negative 6. So this would be less than. Negative 15 is less than negative 6. Negative 6 is closer to 0. It's more positive. Number 7. 12 is less than 31. And number 8. Negative 30 is less than negative 3. Negative 3 is closer to 0, which means it's more positive, and it's bigger than our negative 30. Okay, so all of these are less than. All right, I'm going to have us move on to our final objective here. This is interpreting and explaining statements of order for positive and negative numbers in real-world situations. Okay, that'll make more sense as we look at this example here. So the table shows the lowest recorded temperature in Alaska for each month from July through December. So our temperature in July was 16 degrees Fahrenheit, August 8, September negative 13, October negative 48, November negative 61, and December negative 72. So our job in number 1 is to write one observation that we can make about the temperatures in Alaska. There's not only one correct answer to this. There could be many different observations that you can make about these temperatures in Alaska. But maybe we would say something like the coldest month was December. Or July was the warmest month. Coldest being the most negative, negative 72 is the most negative or the smallest. And July was the warmest because it had the highest temperature or the most positive temperature in this list here. Okay, you could have written any others too, as long as they are true statements comparing the months or any kind of observations about the temperatures in Alaska. Okay, those are just 2 examples that we could have written down. For number 2, we want to write an inequality to compare 2 temperatures from the table above. So let's say I wanted to compare July and August. If I wanted to compare July and August, I would say that July, or maybe, you know what, I want you guys to use the temperatures. Let's use the temperature values that they give us. So 16 degrees Fahrenheit is greater than 8 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a true statement. If I wanted to compare November and December, I would say negative 61 degrees Fahrenheit is greater or warmer than negative 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, similar to number 1, in this example for number 2, there could be other possibilities too of inequalities that you could write. These are just 2 examples there for you. So you can challenge yourself if you want to come up with a couple others. I encourage you to do that, but those 2 are here as examples for you. Okay, our last 2 problems here, we're going to take written inequality statements or written statements and turn them into number inequality problems like we did in number 2. Okay, so if I'm looking at the first one, 0 degrees Celsius is warmer, that's a key word, warmer, to help us out, than negative 5 degrees Celsius. I'm going to write 0 degrees Celsius and my negative 5 degrees Celsius, and I want to figure out what inequality symbol is going to go in between those two. I know that 0 degrees Celsius is warmer than negative 5, or 0 is greater than negative 5. If I were to picture a number line in my head, 0 is bigger than negative 5. So that would be my inequality statement for the first example. The second example, the elevation of the Valdez Peninsula, which is negative 131 feet, is less than the elevation of the Caspian Sea, which is negative 92 feet. So I'm comparing negative 131 feet and negative 92 feet. Negative 131 is less than negative 92, so I'm just going to input my less than symbol to show that that statement is true. Negative 131 is less than negative 92. It is more negative or lower than negative 92 feet. Okay, feel free to rewatch this notes video at any point or rewind if you need something repeated. Please make sure you have this filled out and submit it to the assignment when you are done. Okay, nice job.